The easy joke would be to say that the writers of this movie have empty heads, but they're far too full of themselves for that to be true. Hi, welcome to the Silver Spleen. My name is Chuck Segal, and this is my review of The Empty Hands. Chapman To was blacklisted by the China film market because of comments he made supporting Occupy Central back in 2014. As a consequence, he hasn't been in a lot of movies since then. In fact, I think he's only been in 2 of them. He was in a Singaporean movie called Let's Eat that I didn't see, but neither did you. He was great in Herman Yao's The Mob Fathers, but that was never going to play in China anyway, and thank God for that. Chapman To directed The Empty Hands, but it's not his directorial debut. That honor goes to Let's Eat, but it is his screenwriting debut. He co-wrote The Empty Hands with Erica Lee, a longtime collaborator of Herman Yao. I'm not generally a fan of Erica Lee's scripts, and unfortunately for Chapman To, that tradition continues with The Empty Hands. Steffi Tang plays a Japanese woman, no, really, raised in Hong Kong, whose father suddenly dies. She was a karate prodigy who never lived up to her potential and never had a close relationship with her father. When he drops dead, she inherits his converted flat, which he had been using as a dojo. She intends to subdivide it, rent it out, and slack her life away. Or not, as it turns out, because in fact, she only inherits 49% of the flat. The other 51% is inherited by Chapman To's character, a former star student who is led astray by the dark side of his powers. He ends up in prison and is paroled just in time to take possession of his half of the flat. That's not convenience, that's just narrative. A friend of mine recently said something that makes more and more sense the longer I think about it. A good art film is never intentional. If you try too hard, it's not an art film. The Empty Hands is not an art film, but not for lack of trying. Long takes? Check. Slow zoom? Check. Classical music? Check. Undernourished narrative combined with overstuffed symbolism? Check. Why do people think that classical music makes your film more artistic? It just makes it more pretentious. But hey, at least it's not a fucking accordion. I'll give it that. The Empty Hands is deeply pretentious. It's trying so hard to be deep and meaningful and rich and complex that you'd think it was hipster coffee. You know, served in a vintage Campbell's soup can with a side of French fries and a left-handed catcher's mitt. I don't know either, so don't ask. I also don't know if Chapman To or Erica Lee watched 100 Yen Love, a Japanese movie about a woman who never lived up to her potential and then discovers boxing, leading to growth, improvement, and self-discipline. I haven't watched it either, but then again, I didn't write a movie about a woman who never lived up to her potential and then martial arts leads her to growth, improvement, and self-discipline. I'd say it's likely that one or both of them saw it because it would fit with the film's overall shallow fetishizing of Japan. Yes, Steffi's character is Japanese, as is some of the decor of the flat. And there are some superficial nods to Japanese culture, like the willingness to do whatever it is you do to the best of your ability. Dada Chen plays a masseuse at a rub-and-tug joint, and while that might not be the most admirable job in the world, she's going to do her best because that's her mission in life. But never mind these tawdry digressions. Steffi Tang reportedly worked very hard for this role, but to be honest, I don't really see it. That may be because of her, but really I think it's more Chapman To's fault. He's not only the director, he was also one of the action directors and one of the writers, so he needs to take responsibility for the fight scenes. They bothered me in 2 very different ways. One, they were unrealistic in a way that I simply can't let go of. Sure, people in Hong Kong do fight without mouth guards, but that's Lan Kwai Fong. But in a gym? I don't think so. I've also never seen a real MMA match as bloody as these fights. I've certainly never seen people that really were that bloody being allowed to continue. And at least in MMA, there's no piano sonatas. But hey, movies. I would also be tempted to say that these were the worst martial arts I've ever seen on screen. But that's not true, only because I've seen the trailer for The Kung Fu Rock Chick. And as long as I'm just, making weird, seemingly random associations, I'll be the first person to say that if you throw a Rolex at a house and the bezel smashes, it's not a Rolex. That's what you get for buying it on Temple Street, boo-boo. Now I'm getting to a point where it seems like I'm just throwing out random associations and weird things. But unlike The Empty Hands, I'm actually going to stop right away. I'm not going to keep showing you scenes, any one of which could be an ending, but isn't. I'm just going to stop. And luckily for all of us, I'm not going to use any f***ing piano music while I do it. I didn't really enjoy The Empty Hands, and I actually wanted to, but I guess it was just a little too hubristic. There was too much, I don't know, it was just trying too hard to be an art film. Stop it. Now, I didn't really care for this movie, but maybe you would. And so if that's the case, go to the cinema and see it. If you don't get a chance to watch it in the cinema, which you may not because it's not really raking in the dough, wait until you can rent or buy a copy. That's the nice thing to do. Just because I don't like this movie doesn't mean you should steal it. When it gets released to home video, I'll update the description with a link where you could buy a copy like a decent human being. And as long as we're talking about money, please click on my Patreon page, because for just a couple of dollars a month, you could make a seriously important difference in my life. There's other ways you could make a difference too, but let's face it, it's not that kind of channel. Oh, that got weird. If you enjoyed this review, please let me know, and if you didn't, let me know. If you enjoy the idea of Dada Chen working in a tug shop, never mind. If you enjoy the channel, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.